Hello, Chris. This is another Chris speaking with certain high expectations now about my English knowledge, but but we'll.
How are you, Christian?
Uh, I was still asleep right now, and the guys phoned me out of bed, and hey, we can do the interview right now. And so I fell out of bed, and here I am. Thank you very much for agreeing so fast.
Thank you very much for falling out of bed and coming to the interview. I appreciate it. I hope you're okay.
Totally, it's not too high of a bed, so the stunt wasn't too bad.
Very cool, man. Thanks for taking the time. So let's begin whenever you're ready.
I am. You read the questions?
Yes, I skimmed through them pretty quickly, and I'm very good at answering these type of questions because I've been asked so many times similar questions, but it's my pleasure to give repetitive knowledge because it's only good for all of us.
It actually is. It actually is. One question that's not on the manual. Do you still speak French?
Bien sûr.
No, I was reading about the languages today and was here. He's born in America. He was probably raised in LA, but you do still speak French. And how about Flemish?
In fact, Christian, I was born here in 1987, May 20th, and then I was raised in Belgium.
Yes, you have a slight accent still, yeah?
Yes, it's a little bit there. You can kind of hear it sometimes. Sometimes you hear some of my father, and sometimes you hear the New York of my mother. It's very unique mix.
Yes,
but
New York is that mother, yeah.
Yes, correct. He's Puerto Rican descent, raised in New York, so New Yorican. My mother comes from the East Coast, yes, and excuse me if you hear any sounds, my phone sometimes goes off. I was raised by my father's parents in Affligem, Belgium, small little village, and my father was raised there too. So he wanted me to be raised in a place where we have more foundation to culture, more access to better food, and a simpler life is a better life, I think. And I still live by those terms because I've been raised that way. So my grandparents are a big part of my childhood, and French was actually my first language. Then in 1991, I think 89, 90, to be honest, I think it was, and we moved to Belgium before my parents first divorced in the early 90s. And I was raised in school there. I had to learn the language. I had to learn Flemish, right? So spreek Nederlands een beetje? Ja, maar ik vergeet alles. So I forgot most of it. But I can order a crepe if I want to at a restaurant. So, which I think is the most important.
Probably. I almost understood what you just said because of the relationship between Flemish and German, but it's better when I read it. I can't speak it at all.
I understand. It's the same with French. So French for me, reading is challenging at times, but to speak it, to listen, it's pretty easy. It's amazing, those two realms,
Great. Language is a great thing anyways.
It is. My wife, she speaks almost 5 languages.
Oh, fantastic.
Amazing. Azerbaijani, which is basically ancient Turkish. She speaks Turkish. She speaks what else? She speaks English. She speaks Russian, unless I said that already, I think. And she's learning French.
Great.
So she's really someone who explores languages a lot.
Brilliant. That's the Azerbaijani language or the ancient Turkish. I once read a book that when people spoke the old Turkish around the times of the First World War, they were understand until China, because the old Anatolian language was widespread this much.
Yes, that's correct. It's amazing the stretch of history it has. Yes. It's crazy. The Ottoman Empire being a part of what once was now Armenia. It's a segment. That whole war is very, very construed, but let's not talk politics. It is what it is. Turkey is still neutral.
It is. Okay, then let's start with the first question Alex wrote for you. Your first role was as young Luc Devereaux in Universal Soldier, and many things. What do you remember about the making of the movie, and the dog which was in the movie, knowing that your dad and probably you are great dog people? Was it your own animal?
So the Rottweiler we had in the movie was I don't believe it was ours, but we did have 2 Rottweilers in the late 80s, early 90s, George and Sasha, beautiful dogs. They lived with us many happy years, 10 to 12 years. And actually the first film that my father would have liked me to be in was Lionheart. And the director, Sheldon Lettich, put his daughter in the movie, and my dad said, let's put Chris in the movie too. And there was really no space for me in the film, and I think I was a little too young, maybe. I don't know the truth behind the matter, because now I'm old enough to find out, but it's not important. So Universal Soldier was the first one, and I'm happy it was, because it was with Roland Emmerich, who's a magnificent director. One of the king of popcorn films is Roland Emmerich with Michael Bay. They're up there together. And Roland became a good friend of my father, but that dog was great. I played with that dog on set. I remember that. Very gentle animal, as all are. And my grandfather was on set. He loved the animal. I think he also said that we wanted to get, maybe he spoke to, I think what it was he spoke to the breeder of this Rottweiler, and they led us to owning 2 championship off-breed Rottweilers at the time. And we were raised with them. They're fantastic animals. They're beautiful.
Great. Rottweilers, anyway, I always loved those. Was, of course, as a kid, totally afraid of them because they're the classic guard dogs, but
Sure.
Beautiful dogs.
Beautiful, absolutely fantastic.
Okay, Lady Wearing the Quest, which, as you know, is the movie we're doing the Mediabook edition of here at the label. And
great, cool, yes.
And we like want to make it the ultimate release of this movie, which is a modern action classic or action adventure classic for us. Yes. And you were in there as well in a role that again as the childhood version of your father's role, and it gives a certain depth to the character and to the movie. How did this role come about? And what do you remember about it? And where was it shot?
So the film was shot in Thailand, and in fact, the scene of young Luc Devereaux was there were supposed to be more flashbacks, because my father wanted to direct this movie. Moshe Diamant, the producer, we had a longer script, by the way, if you guys didn't know about this. We had about 30 extra pages. There was a Mongolian invasion and all this stuff, big horse chase sequence that was never put in the movie. I think they pulled it for budgetary reasons. Would have been great. The blimp they had more scenes with the actual air balloon. Shouldn't say blimp, excuse me. But in Cannes Film Festival, they wanted to do, which I think they had, I'm not sure, I can't remember, but they had an air balloon idea. They wanted to hover it over the ocean and have the title The Quest on it with lights from a floating boardwalk. It was a cool idea, very commercial film. And I think it would have been a better film if my father had those extra 30 pages to direct. But he did a great job. It was iconic for its time, and shot off, I think, 60 mil film or 75 mil film, I think it was. Great team, fantastic VP on the movie, and a lot of good actors. For me, that film was cool because it was during a time in my father's life where he had divorced. This is not why it was cool. He had divorced my mother and then married Darcy, but because of Darcy, I now have my brother Nick, which is great because we work together on a lot of projects, which we'll discuss later. And my father was in a transitioning period in the mid to late 90s of really developing his career as an actor into a director, into a producer more in depth, which he was before, but it was really usually just credits. He's always been a hustler in that way and got things off the ground with producers like Moshe Diamond. And what was cool was to see my father with those big 90s glasses come up to me on a bench next to my grandmother, who, by the way, was supposed to play the old lady. And she was playing the old lady, but because her language barrier was kind of complicated and her acting wasn't as good as this fantastic British actress they brought on board. But it was great because I got to do the scene twice over, and it was a very affordable scene to do in a park in Thailand by the ocean. One of Darcy's daughters, Sterling Rice, a very a good friend of the family and very close to us, still was with me on that time during the set because my father was still with Darcy Lapierre at the time. And I remember her and I playing by the beachside while I would go in between takes, and it was really cool because my father would call me saying, Chris, come on. And we would run to the set in my 1930s, 1940s clothes and sit next to my grandma who had all this fake broken teeth and yellow stains and raggedy hair. And I felt so cool. It was like a family affair. Then about a week later, 4 to 5 days later, they told me we have to reshoot the scene because they need some better dialogue. I think some of the producers said it's not what they need. So they brought in an actress who was a secondary choice, primarily first prior to my grandmother's involvement, which I thought was cool. But she was difficult to work with in terms of as a kid learning how to act. She was very intimidating, which made it difficult to me. But when she smiled at me between takes and she said, "You've got this, love, no worries," I said to her, "Okay," and my acting became a little better. She gave me some tips. She said, "Don't listen to what your father said. Listen to what your gut says." When he went away to to go to the Video Village directing chair, so it was a cool, was a very cool process, and I really enjoyed that being directed by my father back in the '90s. It was a great time.
Yes, it's absolutely a modern classic. It's like a movie that of a kind that wasn't done like this anymore back then.
Kind of a Indiana Jones effect almost.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially on the boat with the, with the little muscle, the prisoner escaping, very Tintin. My father is a big Tintin fan, huge. And, as a kid, he would do all these insane stunts that he didn't realize the consequences of until one day he fell. He was playing Tarzan. He had a rope and like a wooden, I think it was like a wooden spike of some kind or some type of tool, and he would go from staircase to staircase like a grappling hook. And one day it penetrated the side of the stomach, and from there on he was a little more careful. But he's always been and he became more agile because he decided to be more aware of his coordination, hence getting into martial arts. But he's always been very adventurous. He sees movies like the way he always dreamed of them as a kid. If he was Tintin, how would it look like?
Great. It's the best way to think movies, actually.
I think so too. It's Spielberg,
Yes. Did he like the Tintin movie, the actual one?
I think I'm not too sure. I think we might have seen it separately. Then I don't know. Maybe we saw it together. I can't remember now, but I think he did. I think he did like it, and I liked it. I don't know why they didn't continue the others. It was in no way, shape, or form political, which was fantastic because nowadays every movie is casted politically.
Yes.
They just destroyed Super Mario for everybody. And this is my opinion. For those who don't understand, okay, you're always valid to your opinion. They destroyed Star Wars since Disney bought it. There's a bunch of Jurassic Park. It's all the Smurfs. It's all taken from us. We don't have anything left. Pokemon was destroyed, and I'm a big fan of all those franchises because I'm a huge nerd, huge super nerd. I'm a nerd with a little bit of muscle,
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that. That's actually what many people think. That there's like too much of an agenda, which is pressed on stuff that is not political or historically society style relevant.
Yes, correct. Well said, because there is no jurisdiction to making this character a certain race or species or type. If in that galaxy, if it exists somewhere, it is not like that. You don't have to force it onto people. What's very scary, and I know we're going into politics a little here, but I'll stop after this, is I turn on the TV in the morning. I like to watch SpongeBob. I'm a huge fan. And so I turned, especially the old seasons when they were great, pre Mr. Hillenberg's passing. So I turn it on every morning. I make my breakfast and I watch my 5, 6, 7 episodes of SpongeBob, and I notice commercials in between, and it's some commercials forcing some content down kids' throats to follow a certain way of thinking, and it's very, very destructive. In fact, Nickelodeon has this thing now where they take away 45% of the screen, and they show an ad that are politically induced and dressed, and then they keep the content you're watching very, very squashed, and the format changes, and it holds there for about 3 minutes. That's a long time to forcefully induct some ads. If you don't notice it, be aware now, because you will. But that's the US, in Europe, it's different. I go to Europe, the food is different, the media is different. They say one thing about a war going on in the world than they do here. So what is there really to believe? You have to find a comfort zone within yourself to try to survive through it.
It is. It's quite hard, but
easier said than done. But yes.
Absolutely. But the thing with this almost split screen, this is like the perfect indoctrination. The kid wants to watch the cartoon or the Nickelodeon show, and then he or she has to watch the political agenda at the same time, at the same size almost.
Correct. It's insane, man. It's
insane. Horrible.
I turned off the TV. I said, I can't watch this. I turned it back on.
Understandably so.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Nightmarish.
Yeah.
Yeah, switching into politics is okay for us.
Yes, my apologies. It gets me going off a tangent. I apologize.
No, you don't have to, really. It's perfectly fine with me and with the other guys as well.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. There we go. They're behind your projected roto screen, so no problem. Take your time.
Yes, and this is like not too much of a really huge studio. The guys are in arm's length.
That's fine. You know, Walt Disney started in his garage, as did my father, so no problem.
Yes,
you guys will start.
Okay, let's become Walt Disney now. No, not later.
Yeah, as it was pre his passing, of course. You know, when it was real.
Yeah, even in Disney movies, they start with this cartoon contains depictions of tobacco use.
Yes, I know. You can go into the nitty gritty about it, and it's crazy. It's crazy. There's no more purity to creation in this society as it is right now. You have to almost stay home. I enjoy my time staying home more. I train at home. I make all my food at home. I don't eat out. I rarely have a beer. It's probably on the weekends. If I go to one place with my friends on a motorcycles, I'll have a beer or two or three. That's fine. But like hard alcohol and stuff, if I do have a glass of whiskey or something, it's rare and it's at home. I watch a movie, relax, go to sleep, you know, with my dogs. It's much better than going to a bar. Nowadays, you can't bump into somebody without hopefully not getting a lawsuit. It's crazy. Out here, at least.
I get you completely. It's like turning into a recluse is the best thing for mental health right now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Good thing we have guys like Jordan Peterson right now. I like that guy a lot. It's good.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, let's continue. My apologies. Let's continue.
No, it's all fine. The question I got here, when you had the premiere of the Quest movie in Los Angeles, you were sitting on an elephant with your father, which is a famous and quite cool internet picture. And some fighters from the Quest and Abdel Kissi, for example, they were also there, even dressed up as the Khan. Khan. What memories do you have of the movie premiere?
Oh, a lot. It was a great one. In fact, there was not just one. There were many events pertaining to the Quest at Universal Studios in the mid-late 90s. So one of them was a show where it was the Beetlejuice show, but they took the studio out and they put, you know, a big stone wall, and they made it look, you know, with fire torches everywhere. So it was very big, and my father did a presentation with fighters and Thai flags everywhere and world flags of all the fighters. It was very cool. Then there was the premiere you saw, which unfortunately is my IMDb picture. I've been trying to change that for like 10 years now. I was like, you know, you could have it as picture 7, but not picture 1 or 2 or 3. So that is as it stands now. My manager is still trying to work on that, but I think we'll get it if the stardom grows. The premiere was cool. I remember with Abdel Kissi in the back lots, helping me lift me up to get onto the elephant because he's very tall and big, broad-shouldered guy. He was actually very funny story. I think it was either there or in Thailand. It might have been in Thailand during the shoot, but we were standing at a entrance to a hotel and they had an elephant parade. And I think it was in Thailand actually, because it was an elephant parade. You have to find more elephants in Thailand than you do in Los Angeles, unless you do the 70s act of opening the zoo and letting them all free in the 70s. And not to go on a tangent, but this baby elephant came by, said hi to us. It was a beautiful animal. I remember touching its skin, and it had very spiky hair. And then its foot stepped on my foot, and I remember saying, like, I wanted to say ouch, but it didn't hurt. At the end, I wanted to scream, but I realized it wasn't that painful. But this is a massive animal, so I don't know how. Maybe the boots I was wearing or the high tops in the 90s I was wearing were thick casing. But I remember that, and then it kind of triggered me that I'm a little bit afraid of larger animals. So when we got to the premiere, my fear was completely broken when Abdel put me on the elephant, and I felt all the spikes on my shorts or pants, whatever I was wearing. But I accepted it. I loved it. I felt like I was part of this creature, this living, breathing creature. And I just forgot about the crowd. I felt the elephant breathe. I could hear it. And I actually felt bad for it because it was in the heat and it wanted to maybe be free, wanted to drink. They take great care of them. But as a kid, you think about these things, especially if you're extra sensitive, which I believe I was and still am. And I really wanted to befriend that elephant even further. But it was a great experience, a lot of fun. My father said, "Keep your back straight, wave a lot, and smile." I said, "Okay," and that's what we did. It was great.
It's like almost like an advice for future dictators somehow.
Yeah, which I would happily decline. I don't want to be a dictator, but yes, yes, it sounds like it would be some ancient motive, right? Yeah, some parade motive. Yeah, absolutely.
The first major role was in your dad's movie Derailed in 2002 when you were like 14 or 15.
Yes.
And you first showed your martial arts skills. How did you prepare for your role as Ethan Christoph in this movie?
That's right, Ethan Christoph. I think my father's name was Jake Logan or something, was it, or something like that? Yeah, my father trained me in martial arts since I was about 5 years old. And it was primarily Shotokan based on his teachings and karate in second form. I did Taekwondo at a studio here in Los Angeles, multiple ones, one being Simon Rhee studio, who happened to be in Universal Soldier. I think he was the Asian Universal Soldier that kind of turned in one cutaway. And I think he was in the supermarket. It was fire behind him. It was really, really cool little shot. But I went to his academy as a Taekwondo, and I always trained my father. So for this role in primary value, I trained very basically, just as I would every day, every week when I was with him, whenever I had the chance. But he taught me the basic techniques to do, so that way when we would reconnect during times of absence, he would leave for 6 months, sometimes 3 months, sometimes almost 1 year, shooting multiple pictures back to back. Then I would be prepared for the next training session. So my father really always wanted me to follow in his footsteps technique-wise before movie-wise, but he always wanted me to follow in the steps regardless, which I do in my own way. You know, we all do. So preparing for that film wasn't too complicated. Acting-wise was more the complication, because it was a larger role, and my father had this big camera, and he said, "Okay, there's a movie. I would like you to play my son, if you want." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Cool, we can do a little audition. The director wants to see your acting." I said, "Okay." So we did an audition at our condominium in Santa Monica we had at the time. And he said, "There's only one more guy they're talking, Christian Slater's son, but we're not sure." And I said, "Okay, who's Christian Slater?" And then I remember he showed me, and I said, "Oh yeah, that, okay, yes, yes. Oh, he has a son." I didn't know. Cool, around my same age, more or less. I think maybe a little older, but I'm not too sure. You might know better than I. But we did the reading, and we sent it to Bob Mazurowski, or I think the director was, something like that. And great guy. Bob was a very, very nice man. And him and the assistant director, I think, watched it with the producer, and they said yes to me. So we flew to Bulgaria. And the best thing about that entire film, because it was a really shitty film, the best thing about that entire film was the flight there. My father and I had a lot of fun on the flight there. And also we adopted my dog Ajax at the time from a hotel named, a little rundown hotel. In fact, we went from the set to go have shakshuka, which is a Israeli dish with, they also have in Azerbaijan as well, in other countries around, where you have vegetables under eggs, nothing crazy, but it's well prepared. And so we went to, I forget his name, Shimon, I think it was, who was the set designer or production designer, went to his office, which was in the back of a train yard. And he had a little office above where an old crane was to drop train cargo. It was very cool setup with a warehouse with all the props from the movie, the train cars, everything you saw in the movie. So we went there, and he opened the door, and there were 13 puppies that came out. They all went inside with for the fire. And the father was a German Shepherd, the biggest German Shepherd I've ever seen. Beautiful, long hair, beautiful animal, guarded the front of the train yard. And the mother was a bull mastiff. So imagine the mix. So
Yes.
And there's pictures of him on Instagram and all over the news. You can probably Google somewhere. And Ajax came right away to me and my father and stayed there. And he had a little mole here like De Niro. And we said, you know what? This is the one we want. So when we came to get him back, we wanted to make sure it was the one with the mole. Because I think he was one of the only ones with a mole on this side. We took him home, and a few of the cast members and crew members from the US and Bulgaria and Europe took home every member of the family. So the whole family left. It was a 2-week process of paperwork that the production had to deal with, because my father and I were very, we motivated by example, did not wanting to leave Ajax in the snow. But important story, before we even came to Shimon's place, this is what triggered us to adopt the puppy so fast. We were driving, and it's a bit of a sad, well, it's a very sad story, but we were driving in the snow. It was a bit blizzardy, so very slow. Could not see maybe 5-10 meters in front, very, very minimal view. And the driver we had hit something on the road he did not see. And then he realized what it was, and he stopped. And my father gets out, tells me to stay in the car because I think he saw what it was. My father's assistant, Kathy Brayton, gets out, and they walk to this little lump in the snow. And they look, and there's a puppy, like I don't know, maybe just mixed, but maybe 3 months old. And the car had run over it, and its stomach was open, and there was blood everywhere. And so we wrapped it up. My father took his shirt, he wrapped it in his shirt, and it's snowing outside. We did a U-turn, brought it to a vet. They could not save the puppy, so they euthanized the puppy, and he passed. Very, very sad. As a kid, I was very, very disturbed by that image. So and mind you, I had already experienced the elephant. I love the elephant, so all this was building. And as we got to Shimon's place, we met Ajax, and that was just a trigger and a half. So we took Ajax home, and he lived 15 and a half years.
Oh.
And, beautiful. And he died in my arms, me and my dad's arms, in a vet here in Los Angeles. But he saw the world. He saw Vancouver, British Columbia. He saw Belgium. He saw Paris. He saw most of Western Europe. It's an amazing animal. Most of the states. I took him on road trips. He's my best friend. My wife posted a picture of us on my official page on Instagram today.
I must say that's like the most beautiful legacy a movie, when even you as a participant call shitty, can have the real life impact of saving dogs. And this is brilliant. I mean,
yeah, it was the start of many more adoptions. When we shot Full Love, aka Eagle Path, aka Soldiers, aka Frenchie, which I'm fighting to stay as Frenchie, and I think I won the fight. We adopted, I think it was 9 dogs from Thailand, which we still have 2 of. The rest have passed over time. But we love animals, man. We're big on animals, especially dogs. We had a cat too. One of the dogs unfortunately killed the cat. One of our dogs. But it's the way of thing. Not on purpose. I think she was just playing with it. But it's the nature of animals in general, But Derailed was a cool movie. Not to derive again. Excuse me. The martial arts part was fun. I remember I came out of the hotel, and this young kid, Bulgarian kid, came up to me, and he said, "You're Van Damme's son?" I said, "Yeah." And he was a cool kid. He had like jeans, a backpack. He looked like he was a very compact, athletic kid. And I had this big jacket, these big, heavy Timberland boots, and there was ice everywhere because it was snowing at the time. And he says to me, "Can you do the same kick, roundhouse like this?" And he does the kick in front of me, and I do it with him. I do it right after him. And he says, "Can you do it faster like this?" I said, "Yeah." I did it fast like him. "Can you do it this way?" I said, "Yeah, I can do it this way." And then he just kind of paused, and he looked at me and he went, "You really are the son of Van Damme." I said, "Yeah." And at that cue, as if it's a movie, my dad comes out and goes, "Chris, in the car." And I said, "Oh, I gotta go. Nice to meet you." "Oh, you too." And he was like starstruck, and I went in the car and left, and I didn't see him again. Nice kid. But I made good friends on that set with a kid named Zachary. We shot our own little B movie on the side, a fight scene, so bad. But one of the I think it was the second AD shot this little movie with us, and it was like all the sets we used in the movie in the movie we used as like our fight scene sets. And every time we would go down a door, it would open up somewhere else in a different set, and we would try to make it look cool. It was so bad, but it was so much fun. And lastly about Derailed, so the whole package is by the way, that kid I did the movie with, that short, he gave me a beautiful knife. I still have it. Zachary, he's a very nice kid. He's always have a place in my heart. That and Ajax took a giant shit in the hotel lobby. I remember that. It was like this big, and I got a big cover for it. But another sad story linked to it. That the film was the first AD, very nice man, actually passed away in the tsunami in Thailand. So he was there in Thailand on vacation with his wife, and I remember he was a great guy, such an easy guy to work with. He would before every take, he would notify the production design, the rigging team, "Okay," on his walkie-talkie, very American. "All right, guys, shaky, shaky, and then they would start shaking the train in the studio, and then the train would start shaking, and all the actors would be there, and then all right, and action, and then the shot would start. But it was just so cool. So when he passed away, we all said, God bless Shaky Shaky. You know, he was a good guy. God bless him. But yeah, funny and also extremely sad. A dichotomy yet again. Sorry,
Thanks for
I go on. I give you big answers, so you have a lot to play with, and you get the not just the generic.